Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. It's Saturday, March 12th. And guess what that means? You know it. It is the weekly recap of all the top stories throughout the week, all conveniently located in one video. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk. Lori Vallow, all right? Now, the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, through their attorneys, have filed a motion with the court asking that the two accompanying reports referenced by their motion be placed under seal. Now, needless to say, Judge Boyce immediately granted that the documents be filed under seal because there are privacy rights that the defendant has, particularly as it goes to her medical records as well as to the restoration process. So what does this really mean? Well, they're still getting status reports, okay? Now, we should see here in the next couple of days, all right, and we can watch the jail as well. If for some reason Lori Vallow is transported back there to the Madison County Jail, then we know that she's been restored. It's been a psychological miracle. She has been restored. But if she's not, what does that mean? It means she's probably still not going to join us. And here we are now over some 6 months into the whole restoration process. And I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just telling you from my own personal experience of dealing with people that have gone down to the state hospital, the professionals down there, the very smart professionals who look for malingerers and have ways of identifying the malingerers, can send them back rather quickly. And when I mean quickly, I mean within 30 to 60 days. She's been down there now, 6-7 months? If she was faking it, if she was truly malingering, they being the professionals, would have identified that. So we'll have to see, but my guess is that the reports simply state that Lori Vallow is still not back to restored status, and therefore she needs to remain at the state hospital. We'll wait and see. We just don't know because, well, somehow they don't want to share that with us. And it's been pretty tight-lipped over there in Idaho. Normally something slips out on something of this nature, but not on this one. So we will continue to wait and see. All right, let's talk about Gelane Maxwell. The juror who helped convict Gelane Maxwell of sex trafficking charges acknowledged Tuesday under oath before a United States District Court judge that he filled out the wrong answer on a sworn questionnaire when he denied having been a victim of sexual abuse. Juror 50 stated, quote, "I would have put I was abused as a child." Juror 50 is a guy by the name of Scotty David, and he said that in court today. Now, it was a family member who is no longer a part of the family and one of his friends when he was apparently 9 or 10 years old, according to Mr. David. Now, David insisted that he answered on his juror questionnaire was an inadvertent mistake. And he says, quote, "This is one of the biggest mistakes I've made in my life." He added, testifying that he flew through the questionnaire and was super distracted in a noisy jury room. Now, as you may recall, after Maxwell was convicted of sex trafficking of minors for that man named Jeff, Scotty David was known as juror number 50, made several interviews to Reuters, the Daily Mail, and the Independent newspaper. And he stated, quote, "The verdict is for all the victims, for those who testified, for those who came forward, and for those who haven't come forward. I'm glad that Maxwell has been held accountable." Well, juror questionnaires, they're done under the penalty of perjury. And Mr. David appeared in court with his defense attorney, Todd Spodek, whom he retained after his press interview spilled into court. Now, U.S. District Court Judge Allison Nathan, who presided over Maxwell's trial, ordered today's inquiry at the request of prosecutors. She asked whether his answer to the question was accurate. David replied, "No, it is not." Nathan then asked what the accurate answer to the questionnaire would be. David said that his stepbrother was the perpetrator for the alleged abuse that occurred on multiple occasions. Nathan asked if he told anyone, and David replied, "I did not for several years until I was in high school." David eventually told his mother, who called the police. David said he didn't know if any paperwork was filed and no charges were ever brought. He stated, quote, "I don't really think about my sexual abuse, period." David testified, "I don't tell many people." Well, last week, Smollett notified the court that his client, Mr. David, would invoke his Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination. That's right, when you knowingly perjure yourself on a juror questionnaire with the pains and penalties of perjury, and that wasn't accurate, yes, you need to invoke your rights against self-incrimination so you are not charged. And as expected, just like they did in the case out in California with Scott Peterson, the prosecutors granted immunity. So what does that mean? It means Mr. David will have no criminal liability whatsoever, at least by the prosecution. The court could always hold him in contempt, but pretty unlikely. So the prosecutors offered Mr. David immunity, and the Department of Justice signed off on that plan late last night. Now, let's take a quick look at the question. It is pretty straightforward, and it is question number 48. Have you or a friend or family member ever been the victim of sexual harassment, sexual abuse, or sexual assault? This includes actual or attempted sexual assault or other unwanted sexual advance, including by a stranger, acquaintance, supervisor, teacher, or family member. Then there were three options to list. Yes, for the juror themselves being the victim, or yes, I know a family or friend, or no. So we had two opportunities in which to do that, and he, I guess, hastily in the room that is distracting, hit no. Now, do I think that Mr. David should go to jail? No, pretty unlikely the court would do that. Maybe some costs imposed if a new trial is granted. We'll see what the judge does. Clearly, the judge is going to have to look at this and say, do I judge his credibility as one of being, he made an honest mistake, no harm, no foul, or was it a deliberate attempt to basically get on the jury by saying that you're not a victim? Because I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, there's a better 90% chance, better than a 90% chance that any defense attorney would keep a victim of sexual abuse off the panel of jurors. It's just the way it is. Just like if it was a burglary case and your house got burglarized, you're probably not a good juror for that particular case. And then when you start bringing in your own personal life experiences to explain to the jury why they should be believed, well, now you're bringing in something that was not admitted into evidence nor subject to cross-examination. So I don't know what the judge will do. I think this judge probably wants to move this case along. What's the best way of doing that is simply to not give Gelane Maxwell any relief and then let the appellate courts sort it out. Or the judge could be bold and say, you know what? We don't like Gelane Maxwell. Been convicted now of doing terrible things, and she probably will be convicted of doing terrible things again. But if there is a doubt in that process, we need to do it and make sure that she receives a fair trial. That would be my advice if I were a judge. But guess what? I'm not a judge. And the way some of my motions have been getting denied in court lately, clearly I don't think like a judge. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. All right, Sherry Papini. Well, she's on the run again. That's right. Take a look at this. Photographed clutching a plastic bag and paperwork as she frantically dashed to her car following her release on bail, stemming from the charge that she faked her abduction going back to 2016. Now, the Sacramento Superior Court Judge Jeremy Peterson set the California mom's bond at $120,000 and forbid her from contacting witnesses connected to the case. Well, those witnesses are the ex-boyfriend that she wasn't having sex with when she was with him for 2 weeks, okay? If you watched last night's show, you know what we're talking about. Anyway, the judge noted Papini had no criminal history, no violent offenses, but said that he had grounds for concern due to her lengthy pattern of dishonesty. Now, Papini was ordered to turn over her passport and was told that she cannot travel outside the Eastern District of California. Now, Papini must also seek psychiatric treatment and must stay away from firearms, drugs, and alcohol under the terms of her release. Somewhat unusual, the things that most people turn to in times of stress they can't use when they're under pretrial supervision, but it makes sense, doesn't it? Anyway, Papini broke down in tears as she opened the door to the courthouse and seemed to almost collapse as she saw the crowd of press that had gathered for her case. She doubled over and gripped a family member around the waist to stay on her feet as they hurried her down the sidewalk. A man stepped in front of a press photographer trying to block any shots from the, I guess you could say, disgraced mom as she hurried to her car. Now, Papini went missing on November 2nd, 2016, and turned up on Thanksgiving Day of the same year, and had been taped and bound and had a swollen nose and a brand on her right shoulder. She told authorities that 2 Hispanic women had obviously kidnapped her at gunpoint and chopped off her beautiful blonde hair. Prosecutors charged that she really was at her boyfriend's house 100 miles away. She continued to lie to the FBI and the Shasta County Sheriff's Department when she was interviewed about the case. Now, prosecutors say that she cashed in on her lie, basically taking $30,000 from the California Victims Compensation Board. And when Papini was arrested, U.S. Attorney Veronica Allegra told the court that the FBI conducted a ruse to get Papini out of the building where her kids were having a piano lesson. Papini was told her vehicle was involved in an accident, and when she came outside, the feds grabbed her. They said she attempted to flee but didn't get very far, and admitted that her kids did see her get arrested. Now, Allegra said that during the arrest, Papini screamed no and attempted to run away. They also say she threw her cell phone 20 feet as she was being arrested. As the case unfolds publicly, Papini's family is processing their feelings about the latest development. A family member stated, apparently, "I was there for her and I would have given her the shirt off my back, and now I understand that everything was just a joke. I feel betrayed." Now, the family member added that Papini has 2 beautiful, sweet children and that Papini needs help. Mental help, that is, according to the family member. And her next court date is now set for March 25th. Just goes to show you, ladies and gentlemen, the truth always comes out. Obviously, we'll give her the presumption of innocence, but it looks like her ex-boyfriend threw her under the bus. Not looking good for her. Gabby Petito's family filed a lawsuit against the parents of Brian Laundrie this week, accusing the Laundrie family of knowing that their son murdered 22-year-old Gabby Petito and claiming that they were planning to help him leave the country. Now, the suit only is asking for $100,000 in damages, which seems a little low, but when you look at it, I'm not even sure that a cause of action exists in this particular case. Even if the parents knew what Brian Laundrie had done, he had told them everything, they have no duty to go tell the police. They have no duty to do anything. There's no evidence that they assisted Brian Laundrie in his disappearance that only resulted in him making it to the swamp where he took his own life. He certainly didn't leave the state, and he did not leave the country. Now, we'll have to wait and see if there's going to be a little more information that comes out on this, but I am very skeptical that there is even a cause of action that exists in this particular case. I get the Petitos want answers. They're looking to hold someone responsible, but the person that they need to hold responsible is Brian Laundrie, not his parents.